Hi, this is Dr. Joe Green, head pastor of Antioch Assembly, located in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, also the founder of the 2019 movement, and I want to share a couple of thoughts. I wanted to do part two on the program I just did regarding the millennials, because we laid some foundational stuff, but I didn't really have enough time to go into where we're at right now. So if you recall, if you heard the previous podcast, we looked at the formation of Western culture, how we got from where it began during the time of feudalism till now. And it's going to be important for you to understand the foundation. I did that for a purpose, for a reason. Because feudalism, like I said, you've always had the ruling aristocracy, the ruling class versus the peasant class. And then you had people in between, but for the most part, historically, the people in between were agents of the ruling class, the aristocracy, the oligarchy, if you will. They were just tools of them in order to keep the peasant class in control. So with the Industrial Revolution and those type of inventions, you had for the first time this middle class, what we call the middle class. And in America we have the middle class. And what you realize is that one of the things that the ruling class has to do is they have to get rid of the middle class in order for the middle class to become part of the peasant class, because the middle class has a lot of power. They have a lot of power because they run things. In America, the middle class really is the heart and soul of the nation, of the economic system, of the political system. And the reason that's the case is because, the ruling class are going to be the ruling class. No matter what, the wealthy, the 1% or the 0.5%, they're always going to be okay. Whether you have a recession or a depression or whatever, the ruling class remain the same. It's the middle class that actually helps drive everything. And the peasant class are controlled by the ruling class when there is no middle class. And so things like socialism and communism were tools of the ruling class to just basically shift power from the people to the ruling class. But with communism and socialism, what they do is they're very clever and subtle, is they give the working class, the peasant class, the impression that they have some control. So the only thing that the communism and socialism does is it basically deceives the peasant class into believing they have power. But what the communism does is it gets rid of the middle class. So there's no middle class in communism or socialism. You have the ruling elite and you have the peasant class. And the peasant class gets poorer and poorer because there's no upward mobility like you have in the middle class. When you have a middle class, you can have people that go from the peasant class to the middle class and even to the wealthy. If you think about people that invented things, people that the rags to riches story, like for instance, you may have someone like a LeBron James. Now, because we have the society we do, LeBron James goes from a single mother household to becoming very wealthy because of his basketball ability. That's what happens when you have capitalism, when you have a free market economy. And just before I go any further, let me just say how dangerous socialism and communism is. It's a deception that the ruling class used to make the peasant class believe that they have that they're being fairly treated. So what socialism does is it just redistributes wealth. Socialism never creates wealth. It just redistributes the wealth that's already created. So every place that was socialism, whenever there was a wealthy nation, the reason it got wealthy wasn't through socialism. It was always through free market capitalism. Even in these European nations like Sweden and some of these, Finland and some of these other nations have become socialist, but they become socialist nations because they were wealthy because of capitalism. You look at Venezuela. Venezuela is a wreck now because socialism did what socialism does, which causes poverty. It doesn't help create wealth or manage wealth. It just redistributes wealth and takes it from one group of people to another. And socialism doesn't breed excellence or ingenuity, or it doesn't feed the human spirit, because the human spirit is, you have people that wanted to climb Mount Everest. You had people that wanted to invent things, or great business people. You had people that were, a professional athlete who had a desire to play professional sports, and they're so great that people pay money to go see them, or awesome musician who's so talented as a musician. They become wealthy because people pay a lot of money to come see them and hear them play music. So that's what happens in a capitalistic society. In a socialist or communist society, those people would actually work for the state, and so the wealth never is never accumulated. It's always just taken from one group and given to another group without any merit. It's not merit based. So anyway, what happens is you have this goes from the feudalistic system, the Industrial Revolution that comes, and now the population grows, phenomenally. So as I said in the last one, if you heard, for the first 8 centuries of the start of our what we call the Western culture, the population only grew by 0.1%, 0.1% population growth. But with the Industrial Revolution, you had commodities that were more easily accessible, food and other things. You have technology, you have medical breakthroughs, you have the standard of living rising. And so because of that, the population begins to increase, and then you go from a 0.1% population growth to a 400% population growth from the time of the Industrial Revolution till now. And then just in 1 century, I think there was 100% population growth in the world. And so what happens, you have this ruling class people that have this Genesis 3 mindset that they're gods in the earth and they can determine what's right or what's wrong. They also look at the earth, which God created the earth for man. So God created the earth, and the Bible says he looked for someone to garden the earth, or to watch over, to be a steward of the earth, which he created man, right? To watch over the earth and the earth's resources. But what these people do, instead of understanding that the resources belongs to everybody, only the ruling class believe that they deserve the resources, and they believe that mankind ultimately gets in the way. So the peasant class are the ones that get in the way from them being able to enjoy their life and being able to profit, or just to not even profit, but just to enjoy the resources at their whim, at their will. And so they began to come up with things to control the population and reduce the population. So you had like Malthusian philosophy, which is survival of the fittest. You had Charles Darwin, these great thinkers of this era. You had the Enlightenment period, where you had people that were writers, people in arts and music and literature and education. They become, they work with the ruling class, so they believe that they are better than other people. And because of that, they kind of buy into this whole mentality of the ruling elite. And so they use art and entertainment and everything to promote ideas that help to keep people under their control. You had these people. You had Charles Darwin. Darwin's theory of evolution is based on eugenics, because it's called the race to preserve the favored races in the struggle for life. And so with Charles Darwin's theory of evolution is based on eugenics, which means that there's certain groups of people that are less evolved, and so they really don't deserve to have the resources. Or if you keep the population to a certain degree, but the ones who are there actually are there to serve the ruling class. And then you have the people in the middle, the people in arts and literature and education and politics and entertainment. They are really just to promote the agendas of the ruling class. And so now you had these groups that were raised up, like in Germany you had what's called the Frankfurt School. These are what they call think tanks. And so the think tanks is when they gather together these intellectuals, what they call intellectuals. The ruling elite, of course, are behind the scenes. These intellectuals, they gather together and they strategize on how to promote their ideologies and their agendas. And you have to understand that the more intelligent that they become in their own minds, the less they need God, or the more God becomes inconvenient to them. And so there's always this mindset of there's 3 philosophies that you'll find. You have atheists, agnostics, and you have theists. And I'm going to explain that. Like Benjamin Franklin was described as a theist. So when you have atheists deny that there's a God. You have agnostics. Agnostics say they don't know whether there's a God or not, but they don't believe that there's enough evidence to decide either way. So if you don't believe that there's enough evidence to decide either way, then obviously you're not serving God or worshiping God. And then you have theists. So theists are people that believe that there is a God that created everything, but that God is far off somewhere, that he doesn't really have any interaction with humanity. And so there's a lot of these people that do believe in the concept of a God, but they're theists, so they don't really believe that God cares about what's going on. And so they believe that they're in charge in that situation. So now they started to develop strategies and plans to keep the population at a certain level, or to manipulate those who are here. And they control the minds of the people. They use music, they use entertainment, they use literature, they use the educational system. And then you had these ruling elites in Europe, this aristocracy that started to really form secret societies. And it wasn't a new concept. It goes all the way back to ancient Babylon, that they believe that there's a secret knowledge that they possess that makes them as gods. And so they form these Masonic organizations, secret societies. And this culminates in 1776 with Adam Weishaupt, with the creation of what's known as the Illuminati, or the Illuminated Ones. And it's just the Masonic, occultic, Kabbalist philosophies that are all intertwined and interconnected together. And they begin to perfect their strategy on how to promote and to control the masses. So, and you have these people still, the international bankers with the Rothschilds. You have these people that's part of these secret societies. But then you also have, like I said, the people that are the heads of certain industry. So the media, entertainment, politics, the financial systems and the banking systems and world government. At the very top, you have people that are a part of this philosophy, because in order for you to get promoted in this system, you either have to be a part of these bloodline families that are what they call the Illuminati, or you have to basically swear your allegiance to them. And so this is the strategy you see over and over again. Now, what they did was, in the 20th century, they really began to promote this. You had Aleister Crowley and Crowleyism. You know, we talked about nihilism. So nihilism means that you basically, I'm going to sum it up by saying, live fast and die young. That's what they believe. Aleister Crowley says, do what thou wilt is the whole of the law. Do whatever you want to do. That's what makes you feel good. So you have these Tavistock Institute, the Frankfurt School. They work with these intelligence agencies like the CIA and different organizations, and they begin to perfect strategies in order to promote their ideology to control the masses or keep the population down. So world wars, that was one of the strategies they wrote. Albert Pike wrote about 3 world wars that they were going to develop in order to depopulate the earth and to usher in their new world order. You had, after World War II, you know, with the Frankfurt School and then Tavistock, you had these people that start to perfect things like mind control, manipulation. You had, you know, Aldous Huxley that wrote a book, that Brave New World, which his futuristic view of life was that sexual promiscuity would be prevalent. You would just live life for pleasure. Drugs, sex, and whatever pleasures, materialism that you want would be the totality of what you live your life for. And that's a way of control, because if you have no purpose in life, you're easy to manipulate. Because especially if it's about physical pleasure, sex, the lust of the eyes, the lust of the flesh, and the pride of life, it's about materialism, physical pleasure, and just enjoying yourself. Then if that's the totality of your life, then the people with the money, the people with the status, and the people with the platforms can easily manipulate you, because they just offer you money, offer you fame, offer you all the physical pleasures of this world. That's what the devil did to Jesus in the wilderness. He took him to a high mountain and he said, all these nations, all these kingdoms are mine, and I'll give them to you if you bow down. And then he told him, hey, why don't you, I know you're hungry, why don't you turn these stones to bread? And then he says, you know, he took him on a high mountain and, hey, why don't you just jump off here and then you won't die. So everybody will see that you are the Son of God. And so the lust of the eyes, the lust of the flesh, and the pride of life are all the things that he used to manipulate us. And they still do that. And if your life is based on not serving God, but serving these particular things, then you're easy to manipulate, because you don't care about God. You don't care about the afterlife. And many times you don't even believe in God. And that's key for us to understand, that we become more and more godless in our mindset. Romans 1 says, because they became wise in their own mind, they became as fools, and they gave up on the incorruptible God for corruptible flesh. And so that's where we're at. And because of that mindset, the CIA, they perfected rock and roll music to use the music to corrupt the morals of society. The sexual revolution was orchestrated by the CIA, and they use music in order, because they understand that music helps to control your mindset. It teaches you things and trains you and reestablishes what your reality is. And so even though we who don't know any better think it's just entertainment, but ultimately what it does is it's orchestrating your thoughts. It's changing your thought patterns. And that's what music does, and they use that. They actually use the music and the frequencies in order to control people. So you had the hippie revolution that was based on music. You had the free sex, free love movement, which was to the sexual morals of the nation were deteriorating. Because basically, like I mentioned to you, nihilism and the other concept that we talked about is critical theory, which means they criticize every part of Western society, every part of Western world, whether it's religion, whether it's the order that God has placed between man and woman, husband and wife, the gender roles, religion, gender roles, family structures, moral fabrics, all those other things, purpose. So people that are nihilists, they don't live their life with purpose. They believe you're just supposed to live and enjoy the moment. There's no bigger picture. The family is not important. So part of what they do is they promote, marriage as being something that you can put off for a long time because it's just a waste. You got to pursue material stuff or pursue status or get a certain place in your job before you should get married and have kids. You don't want to bog yourself down with a family, and that's intentional to disrupt the importance of family and all these things that they have socially engineered for us to fall victim to. And because we're not standing on the foundation that God has given us, it's so easy for us to be controlled through that mindset. So now you have a generation, this millennial generation, that is the epitome of all those things that they've been working for throughout these years, which is why 2 Timothy verse 3 says, in the last days there'll be perilous times. And that's where we're in. It's the culmination of all these things that the enemy has been pushing for centuries, and it's being successful. And now it's being successful to such a large degree because you have mass media, you have all these things. It's like a concentration of all the philosophies that's being pushed. They have an educational system, so they've re-engineered the educational system that's not teaching math and science, but teaching morality. And so we have to get to this place where we start to understand and recognize exactly what it is that has been engineered for all this time. And because that's the case, because we have not had the foresight and understanding, we fall victim to this. And so now we have a generation of people that they just live for the moment. They're selfish and self-centered, and they don't want to they don't look at the bigger picture. They just look at how I feel now, what I want now, and where I want to go. And so it's important for us to recognize that so we can break free of that. Because if not, it doesn't end well for every society and every culture that has stayed on this path. So I just want to encourage you, and I just hope that take heed to this, and till next time, be blessed of the Lord. Bye-bye.